Greetings, friends, and welcome back to our archives. Recent researchers have been recording a plethora of documents related to one Sith Titan and dark side imbued brethren, Darth Malgus. Darth Malgus being one of the most prominent, powerful, and hulkish and physically imposing Sith in all of galactic history, and unquestionably one of the most powerful in the Old Republic era. The False Emperor, the Sith Lord, and the greatest military Sith tactician who ever lived. Darth Malgus was a brutish Sith general who led his Sith warriors in a brutal amount of crusades across the galaxy's history. Throughout the galaxy's history, Malgus played an important role, being the false emperor after the supposed death of Emperor Vitiate at the hands of the hero of Tython, and beginning his own Sith organization disassociated from the Jedi and the Sith. Malgus was a monster in both lightsaber combat and possessed one of the highest force sensitivities that the Old Republic and essentially all of Star Wars Sith have to offer, with force-sensitive midichlorians roughly clocking in to around 16 to 17,000, being even superior to a being such as Mace Windu. Malgus's instructors stated that they had seen few in their lifetime with his potential in the Force. This is a landmark quote, due to the fact that Malgus was trained on Dromund Kaas, and Dromund Kaas was the primary capital world of the Sith Empire during Vitiate's reign. But there is another character that I would like to turn our attention to, Darth Vader, the hulkish titan of the dark side, formerly the hero with no fear of the Republic, Anakin Skywalker. Darth Vader was essentially a myriad version of Darth Malgus, just more evolved, more force-sensitive, and more powerful. But why did Vader look up to Malgus, and why was he Darth Vader's hero? Before we get into this, I pour a lot of effort into these videos and would greatly appreciate it if you shared it with your friends and liked and subscribed. If you wish to stop Emperor Vitiate's ruthless crusade around the galaxy, or holster Malgus in his false emperor ideology, then you've come to the right place. Just hit the subscribe button and the Force will once again be unified into balance. Now, my friends, let's proceed, acolytes of the Force. Starting off, we have to mention that both Palpatine and Vader greatly admired Malgus, but they greatly admired them for different reasons. Palpatine primarily admired Malgus due to the fact that Malgus was essentially exactly what he wanted from Vader immediately after he figured out Vader had been maimed and burnt alive on Mustafar. Malgus was a hulking Sith brute, a tyrant with cybernetics embedded into his skin, wires coiling and curling like mechanical snakes out of his respirator, a suit of armor that was essentially invulnerable, along with his resolve, willpower, and flesh. Emperor Palpatine wanted a soldier, a pure warrior, a general to be able to govern his armies. And he wanted Vader to understand and fully comprehend that he was as useless as a pawn on a chessboard, and that he could effortlessly rid himself of him if the need arose. Vader certainly knew this, and so, in the early years of the Galactic Empire, in its waxing days, Palpatine, now the greatest owner of Sith artifacts that the galaxy had ever seen, displayed a plethora of these unique items to Vader, one of which was Darth Malgus' journal, or at least the remnants that remained, that is documented in the Book of the Sith. This depicts Malgus' crusade across various worlds. His love interest was Alina Daru, a slave Twilight girl that he saved and eventually fell in love with, despite the Sith's disdain of interbreeding species. Malgus and Vader shared a lot in common, and Palpatine wanted to exploit this. He wanted Vader to see Malgus' staunch belief in the Sith ideology, their designs, and their methods, and cleanly severed any single ties Malgus had, or any doubts Malgus had, to the Sith. Palpatine wanted Malgus to mirror Vader, but he wanted Vader to grow and evolve. He wanted Vader to be as associated with the dark side, as immersed in the sea of eternal and perpetual power as Malgus had been. Malgus never wavered. From the moment he was born, he was a brute. He once murdered a slave girl on his biologist's stepfather's farm just for the sake of it. Malgus was a hulking brute, and this is primarily why Palpatine admired him. But why did Darth Vader admire him? And why did Darth Vader see Malgus as his hero? To put it shortly, Darth Vader believed that Malgus was the perfect iteration of what a Sith could be. Vader believed that Malgus was a pure warrior, and essentially the purest and most perfect iteration of Darth Maul, if Darth Maul had reached his full potential, that it was, and had not been discarded by Palpatine and sliced in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Naboo. Darth Vader saw Malgus as the perfect Sith Lord, a staunch warrior who never wavered in his pursuit of more power, his everlasting rage that allowed him to unleash Force screams, bellows, and a myriad of unique other dark side abilities and talents that Vader, now maimed and weakened, could only ever dream and speculate of unleashing. He admired Malgus for his immense power in the dark side, his ability to generate unique force lightning, and even pioneer new abilities. Vader saw that Malgus was what he needed to become. Malgus had been a Sith warrior, bred for this purpose since he was a mere boy, and was abducted into the Sith Academy on Andromeda Cast at roughly the age of 6. Vader saw that he needed to expand on Malgus's teachings and documented a myriad and plethora of unique, different documentation into Malgus's war journal, with Malgus's war journal depicting his crusades and his feelings when some of the crusades failed and when some of the other ones were relishing success. Malgus relished the killing Jedi and relished the feeling of being on the battlefield, as did Vader. Vader was greatly able to emphasize with Malgus, as Vader understood that Malgus endured multiple series of pain and agony throughout his life, yet he was able to withstand it and build himself up stronger than ever every single time, whether it was a rocket, a grenade, a force attack, a lightsaber strike. Malgus always built himself back up, seemingly unstoppable, an implacable Sith Lord that could never be stopped. He was a staunch believer. Malgus seemingly could not be stopped. He was unstoppable on the battlefield, one of the greatest Sith war generals who had ever lived without a shadow of a doubt. And this was primarily why Darth Vader admired him. He emphasized with Darth Malgus, because Malgus, like Vader, had to relinquish his lover, with Darth Vader accidentally murdering Padme utilizing a force choke, and Malgus intentionally impaling Alina Daru with his lightsaber as she lay in a hospital bed due to the fact he saw she was giving him weakness. Malgus bolstered himself on the death of Alina, fueling his rage, meaning that even in death, she was his most powerful weapon. Vader wanted to unlock this. He wanted to be able to do things that Malgus had done. He wanted to be able to have the rage and staunch focus that Malgus did. Vader wanted to be able to see the death of Padme as a way to further his dark side abilities and ways. He did not want to cry about it, but due to his psychological conditioning, this became increasingly more difficult, and it eventually became too much for Vader. He could no longer adhere to Malgus's teachings. Well, my friends, what did you think of this? Darth Malgus is one of the greatest Sith Lords in all of history, in my opinion. One of the greatest lightsaber duelists and sword masters to have ever been abducted into the Sith Order, utilizing a plethora of abilities that we have covered in multiple videos before. Well, my friends, what did you think of this video? Did you enjoy exploring why Darth Vader and Darth Sidious both greatly admired Darth Malgus, and why, in a way, Darth Vader thought of Malgus as his idol and his hero, and the perfect iteration and personification of everything that Vader wanted to become? A staunch, merciless warrior who relished in killing on the battlefield, fully immersed in the darkness for eternity. Farewell, Sith Lords, and Jedi acolytes, spies, sons of Dathomir, and I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away.